Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another very special episode of Super Switch Headz. This is going to be just a little in-between thing we're putting out, but this is going to be our Mario 35 tips and tricks episode. This was kind of something that came alive on the Facebook group and kind of realized that, like, oh, it might be helpful now that I've been playing a shit ton of this game, and you guys have been playing this game as well. And I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos and stuff and just kind of figuring out how this game works. That it might be a good idea to explain how it works because the game does such a terrible job of doing that itself. But my name is David Howe.
Hey, my name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
And there we go. We're all three here. We're going to be doing it. Have you guys have been playing Super Mario Brothers 35, correct?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
What about where are we at for our listeners so they can kind of know the skill level spectrum here?
I am at level 19.
My level is 31.
Very good. Very good.
And you're the only person, David, that's been playing long enough for us to know how many hours because you played the Japanese version or whatever I don't know. It's not a different version, but you downloaded it early.
I guess so. Yeah. I got it like a couple hours early, so I don't know if it would count. But in the stats page, you can actually see exactly how long you've been playing. I just hit 10 hours of the game. Of play time, whatever like the in-game tracker does. I think I'm at 13 wins now.
Nice.
Made one right before I came in, actually hit my high score on the coins, which felt really good. Matt, you just won a game as well, right?
Well, yeah, I've won 2 games.
Oh, shit. You just picked it up today as well.
Yeah, just started playing it maybe about 4 or 5 hours ago and have been playing it furiously.
It's pretty addictive, right?
Yeah, it's great.
How many hours are you at, Patrick?
Mine says total time played 1 hour, 30 minutes, but I did also play some on my son's account because when any game first comes out, he really wants to play it on his account.
Right.
And then in a game like this, he's like, I don't want to play this. Here, you play. And hands me the controller because it's too hard.
This is a game for old men that are bored of playing the old thing over and over again. But anyway, so that's kind of where we're at as far as skill level wise. I know there are people out there with way more wins, but yeah.
I don't have a win yet, by the way.
Right.
But I came in second and third and stuff, and I feel like I'm consistently coming in closer to it now that I kind of got used to it.
So hopefully, no matter what level that you're at, you'll be able to get something out of this little special episode here with these tips and tricks. Anybody have anything to say before we jump right into it?
The only thing, if you have not downloaded this game yet, it's free on the eShop, but you need a Nintendo Switch Online membership in order to play.
There you go. The first tip and trick is how to get the game.
Yeah. And apparently it's going away in March or at the end of March.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. I've got a sneaking suspicion that this will not be leaving. I think it's a bit more of a hit than I thought it would be.
I wanted to shout out Kyle, too, because this is how I feel playing the game. He said this on our Discord of like, I feel like I either do really well and place in the top 5 or I just make a dumb mistake. And that's
right.
Oh, and that's how I feel like how I always die most of the time is a dumb jump because I'm so used to like Mario Maker and new soup physics. That a jump off an edge, like I think I can jump right on the edge and I just fall off or something like that.
Totally. And I think if you take these tips and tricks with you, you should be able to consistently get in the top 5. And that's kind of where I'm at now. My average has been top 5 for a while, and it's like just because of an amalgam of tips. And so actually let's start with that, what you were talking about, Patrick, with the physics. So the physics in this game are essentially Super Mario Brothers physics, like the original NES physics, but with a few notable exceptions, right? Like when you hold jump when jumping on an enemy, you actually get the full jump height, which you didn't get originally in the original game. It was kind of this stunted jump. And that they do that in this game so that you can actually get combos on enemies. Because that's obviously a huge part of the game, right? Is getting time. You've got a timer that's always going down. So jumping on multiple enemies' heads in a row will get you more and more time for each enemy that you stomp. So early on in the game, as you're starting, hold the jump button as you're jumping on Goomba's heads, and you'll just start getting exponential growth with each one. And you want as much time as you can farm at the very beginning. So that's something about the physics that makes that easier.
Yeah, and for me, something about the physics that took me a little while to get used to. I've been spending so much time in Super Mario 3D All Stars, playing Sunshine a whole lot, and transitioning from the movement in 3D All Stars and like the physics and how far or how short Mario moves took a little bit to adjust to. So if you're playing like just play a few maps, get used to the physics, have some practice rounds.
Yeah, no water jetpack in this game, unfortunately. Another way that the physics are a little bit different is, and it's not necessarily the physics, but just the gameplay. Item progression works differently. So like in the original Super Mario Brothers, if you got hit when you had a fire flower, you'd go back to small Mario. And then also, if you got hit and you became small while there was a fire flower already out and you got it, it would just act as a mushroom.
I was very pleased to find that's not the case when I that has happened to me. I was like, oh, okay, I still get the fire flower.
The team who made this is the Tetris 99 team, and they did a great job on that game as well. And apparently they rebuilt this game completely 100% from the ground up. So the fact that they were able to get it feeling so much like the original ROM while also adding cool additions is what I wish they would have done on 3D All-Stars. Anyway, speaking about practicing physics with this game, there's a great like practice mode in this game that will let you play any of the levels that you've unlocked. It's a great idea, especially if you haven't played a lot of the original Super Mario Brothers and you're not familiar with how that game feels, to just play those levels through, get a feel for how Mario moves around, kind of get down the habit of continuously holding the run button. I know a lot of newbies, won't hold run, and it's so important too. You get more height on your jumps, more length, you can hit more enemies. And then obviously also you want to learn where all the power-ups and stars and coins are in every level as best you can. So, if you have time, you could do that. Or obviously you could just go to NES Online and play the original Super Mario Brothers too. It's essentially the same thing. But yeah, knowing your level layouts and where you can get stars and power-ups is super important to surviving. So yeah, so obviously we've said there are kind of three basic resources in this game, right? There is time, and that's always counting down. I think you start with 30 seconds, if I'm not incorrect. And then you get more time when you kill enemies, right? So if you kill enemies with your fireball when you're in your fire flower phase, you'll get 1 second, regardless of the enemy that you kill. Maybe Bowser gives you a little bit more, but it's mostly you'll get 1 second. But if you jump on enemies' heads, you get 2 seconds for Goombas, and even more for some of the bigger enemies as well. So, always try to maximize your jumping and minimize your fire flowers in the early game, right? As you're trying to get your time up. Basically what you want to do in the game as you're beginning is farm as much of the time and coins as you can. Having a huge cache of coins will make it to where you can use the X button to roll a power up if you get low. But really, as far as I play, like my first goal is to get as much coins as I can, try to get it to 300 coins, honestly. And then I try to get as much time as you can, which maxes out at 400. So as soon as I get to those two places, then I kind of start focusing on killing people, right? But it's like, first things first, you want to get as much as possible because the timer will get faster and faster. And, sometimes if you have a little bit less than somebody else, that's the difference in living or dying. I'm kind of going all over the place. I apologize.
It's fine. I think we should be all over the place. But you brought something up. That's the item button, the X button. Is there any tip or trick for that? Or is it just strictly random? You hit X and then you hit X again?
It's random.
You really can't control it at all?
I think if you mash it, you might be able to get it to go faster, kind of like in Mario Kart in the item box and that. But it is truly random. Like you'll get 5 mushrooms in a row when you're really trying to get a fire flower sometime. That's why it's super, super important to get like 300 coins so that you can just,
waste those
roll
mushrooms,
and roll and roll. Yeah. And that's another thing, another like big level thing that we should really talk about. I think people have been playing this game for so long that people tend to speed run the game when they play it and go for all the warps and go as fast as possible. That's not the way you should be playing this game. Like this game rewards you taking your time and actually going through and killing all the enemies and getting all the coins. And don't worry too much early on about running out of time. Because as long as you're being deliberate with killing enemies, you'll keep getting more and more time. And it's better to actually take your time and go into go into certain areas where you're going to have to spend a few seconds to get all the coins. That's worth it.
I'm definitely trying to learn to let go of the run button. Because I'm so used to holding that playing 2D Mario.
Well, I mean, you can hold the run button, but just, move left and right a lot. You don't have to just go right.
Well, I just have found that like easing up on that is probably a good idea for me, especially in some parts, like just to take my time, because there is no benefit to racing. I mean, maybe there is in the late game, which is sort of, you have a note on here about, in 1-1 not skipping the level because you can basically skip it with that pipe. And you don't want to do that because you can get that 1-up mushroom, that hidden block, and that's basically the same thing. But late game, so I guess I should say that's a good tip, right? Like you can get so much more time jumping on all those Goombas and getting fire flowers and stuff.
After the pipe that you would go in, there's a hidden block like by the hill, and if you hit that, you get 20 coins. So there's no point in going down.
Yeah, but later in the game, is it good to skip a 1-1 that you get because you want to get to better enemies to send to people? I'm wondering,
Yeah. I mean, definitely that's jumping forward a little bit, but like that is a really good point. Like there's and that kind of ties into another note that I have, right? Is that it's not always best to just send your enemy a bunch of Goombas, right? If
you've got enough time, basically.
Yeah, if you're up at 400 at max time, essentially you'll stay at max time as long as the timer isn't going down by not killing every single enemy that you see. You know what I mean? If you just kind of play normally and kill just the enemies that are kind of tough that you'll then send to other people, that's way more advantageous to you, right? Because, if you're sending a shit ton of Goombas to somebody who's low on time, you just gave them a bunch of fuel to get their time back up. You know what I mean? So at a certain point, like once you hit most time, you want to start playing the harder levels or maybe skipping through where it's just going to be a bunch of Goombas you're going to be mowing through because you don't need them, right? But rather you'd want to get to the point where you're killing Bowsers or Hammer Bros are like super important to kill. Focus on those. Piranha Plants are also really, really good to kill because when you send them to other people, they can block their way. And if they don't have enough coins to power up, they're fucked a lot of the time.
Keeps the few times where I've been doing well and not died on a dumb jump has been like Spinies. Being like the Lakitus just tossing tons of Spinies at me.
Yeah. And I'm pleased as punch that there are actually Spinies and Lakitus in this game now, because like in the first like week or so of this game being out, you'd never saw them because people just hadn't unlocked the levels where those were, but now people actually have the levels. So it works really nicely.
Just to reiterate maybe a few different points that we've said, it's David, you've already said this, but it's so important to understand where the power-ups are and what the map layout is, so that you know what enemies are coming up on a specific map so you can send them to the other players.
Right.
And so if you need time or if you need power-ups, you know where it is based on if you're in 1-1 or 1-2 or 1-4.
And it's almost always advantageous to grab a power up, even if you're already in that state. Like if you already have the fire flower and then you grab another fire flower, it gives you 15 seconds on your time automatically.
Time.
Yeah. And it's the same when you hit the top of a flagpole. It's the same for any number of things. Even like sometimes when you're really late in the game and it's the red timer and it's counting down really fast, if you have a bunch of coins, sometimes it's good to just hit the roulette and hope that you get items that you already have just to like give you free time as you're running through. You know what I mean?
I didn't realize those gave you time. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Those, if you already have the thing, it still gives you time. So knowing where all the power-ups is totally clutch. Flower is your best friend, obviously. And not just because it can kill enemies. Cause like we said, it's not always the best to kill enemies with a fire flower, but it's really great to have the flower because then you can take more hits without losing. Because if you die in this, you're out. That's the end of it. No lives in this game. Another thing to keep track of in this game that took me a while to figure out is the map. And I say map lightly because it's really just a strip at the bottom of the screen. But that will show you 3 whole screens worth of information on where bad guys are. It shows you the screen that you're on, and then it's kind of got this weird squiggly line, and then it shows you the next screen and then the next screen. So you can see when people are throwing bad guys your way. So if you see that there's a Bowser or a Hammer Bros coming up in that thing, or even, a blooper or something like that, and you don't have a fire flower, it might be a good idea to hit that fire flower before you go into those screens so that you can deal with those enemies, because those enemies are likely to kill you if you're small. Yeah, another thing too, as you're ending a level is oftentimes you've got this urge to kill like every enemy, but if you're heading towards an axe or a flagpole at the end of the level, don't bother, because any enemy that's by the flagpole will die. I've spent so many lives like trying to kill Bowser and then realizing that I never have to kill Bowser. As long as you can get past him and you get to the end, you're sending Bowser to whoever you're fighting or targeting. And speaking of which, let's talk about targeting. Because if you didn't play Tetris 99, I'm sure the targeting system makes zero sense, right? Matt, did you play Tetris 99 before this?
Only a little. Yeah. I'm not very good.
Yeah.
But Mario, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Well, it helps to be good at the game that the Battle Royale is based on. But obviously you've got multiple ways of targeting in this game. And by default, the game will force you to use the D-pad, and you'll be using both the left and right stick to target. Generally the right stick. And let's start with that. So you've got 4 options there. It starts you on random, which is when you push the right stick to the left. Random is not super great to be on, only under certain situations, which I'll get to in a second. But I think for the most part, you probably want to keep your targeting on people that are attacking you, really? Which is the attackers. Yeah, which is pushing the right stick down. Essentially what that means is that anybody who's targeting you, and you'll see that from lines that are pointing to your player from people on the side, that anytime that they send something to you and you kill that thing, you send it right back to them, right? And the real advantage of that is if you have multiple people targeting you at once, because then, say you're running up on a Bowser, and you've got 6 people targeting you and you kill that Bowser, you'll send that Bowser to all 6 people. And that's true for every enemy in the game. So this, just like Tetris 99, it's more advantageous to be targeted by lots of people at the same time and then send it all back.
I've mostly been targeting lowest time. Is that something you do at a different point then? I've been switching to that pretty quickly and then just keeping it on that.
I don't know that I have a big enough brain to do the lowest time strat. I think that it's going to take too much thinking in order to pull off, so I pretty much never do it. And the problem is that it makes sense that you would want to send enemies to somebody with a lower time to slow them down so they run out of time quicker. But in reality, all you're doing is giving them fodder with which to create more time. You know what I mean? So it's I think it's pretty bad to target lower time. I think that, I can't think of a good situation in which to do it, honestly. Maybe if you're only sending Bowsers or Hammer Bros like we were talking about, but that just is so rare that you'll be able to only send those. And even if you send like 3 Goombas, they can turn that into 10 seconds. You know what I mean? But Matt, you were going to ask something?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can only see people targeting you, but you can't see who other people are targeting.
Kind of. You can't. They don't have a line like they have with you, but if you ever stop and kind of pay attention to the sides, you'll see that things are being sent in certain lines all the time. So you actually can see that if you look for it. And that's something that's good about this game that's different from Tetris 99. Like in Tetris 99, having everybody on the same screen is kind of wasted because everything is so small. And if you stop playing Tetris for any amount of time in that game, you get fucked immediately. But in this game, it allows you to like take your time and just chill for a second if you've killed everybody on the screen. And sometimes it is good to look around at everybody's individual screen and see if there are people that you want to individually target. But before we actually get out of that, let's get through the last remaining one on the right stick, which is most coins. That's like the most badges attack mode in Tetris 99. And essentially what that will do, it just means that it targets whoever has the most coins at that time. And if you knock a player out, you get all their coins, right? So that can be advantageous. But again, that's tough. It's also something I would avoid in Tetris 99 a lot because the people who have the most coins are usually the best.
You're giving them more enemies to...
You could probably hold their own. They could probably hold their own against you. You know what I mean? You might be better, but if you're just starting out, I would say stick with attackers. A good time to switch though to random is when you're being targeted by too many people all at once, or you're being targeted by somebody who's really fucking you up. Switch to random because most likely they're targeting attackers. You know what I mean? And so if you switch to random, then usually they'll stop sending you all their stuff and you can kind of breathe for a little bit and try to find somebody else to target. Now, there's a couple other ways to target. You can use the left stick to kind of pick an individual square on the screen. You can kind of move it around and decide who you want to pick. There's a couple ways to decide that. You might see that somebody is in a castle and they're small Mario, and you're about to hit a Bowser or a bunch of piranha plants or something. That would be a great time to send them a bunch of really tough enemies, right? So you can move your left stick over to that person to target them individually if you want to take the time and actually aim. And then honestly, the best way to do it if you're playing handheld is you can just touch the person's screen of whatever player is on there, and you'll target that person immediately. So if you ever want to like use kind of the big brain plays and start like actually looking out for people that you can pick off individually, that's the way you can do that. But at the end of the day, I'd say I target attackers 99% of the time. Let's move on to some like level tips, because I think that like level selection in this game is something that nobody really understands, and I think it's at least new players don't really understand because they don't explain this at all. None of the stuff we've talked about they explained in this game.
Yeah, we talked about it on the show, but apparently it was their intention with Tetris 99, and I think it made more sense in that game to create this community feel. But especially for the level stuff, I feel like that would have been useful to explain.
Because I think it's turning a lot of people off of the game when they first start, and this is kind of why. So basically, the way that unlocking levels works and the way that level selection in general works is not how it would seem. I think that a lot of people pick 1-1 a lot of the time because they think that the game is asking them what level they want to start on out of all the levels. But that's not how it works. When you select a level at the beginning of the game, you are putting that level into a pool of 35 other levels that people have selected, which the game kind of shuffles up somewhat randomly. It tends to weight it where, you know, a lot of the earlier levels will show up at the beginning and the later levels will show up at the end, but you'll get them. That's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes you'll get later levels early on. Sometimes you'll get earlier levels later. You know, I just did a run where I got 1-1 like 5 times in a row. And so I just have to stress to you, if you're listening to this, don't pick 1-1 because enough people will be picking 1-1 because they don't understand how level picking works. If you're trying to unlock levels, it's always best to pick the latest level that you have available. Because essentially how the unlocking works is it'll give you the latest level in the progression of levels. And then once you clear that, and once you beat that level within a run of Mario 35, you then can pick the following level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now the exception to that is if somebody else picks a level that you don't have unlocked yet, if you clear that, you'll still unlock that level, but then your next level that you can personally do will always be the first with no breaks between it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird way to say it.
I'm just out of curiosity, what levels do y'all have unlocked? How many do you have, David, especially?
I'm up to...
I'd have to check.
I've got World 1 and 2, and that's it. Though on my son's account, I have like some random level in World 4 or something like that.
Yeah. Let me pull mine up here.
I got 4-1.
Yeah, like a random one.
Yeah. So I've got all the way up to 6-2, like that and all levels before it. And then I randomly have 7-1.
Gotcha.
I did run into an 8-3 the other day, but I died on it, so I didn't unlock it, right? But essentially the idea is always pick the latest level, right? Because it's good for you, because that's the level that you need to beat in order to unlock more levels. And it's also good for players that are more noobs, because if they get it and beat it, they'll unlock it without having to like go through the process of unlocking all the levels previous to it, you know? So it's a good guy move to pick the later levels when at the startup screen, because you'll get a whole bunch of 1-1s and 1-2s because there's a lot of new people playing the game and those are the only levels they have, right? So always go for the biggest levels, I think.
Yeah. Talking about another data point on the select a course screen is it shows you the courses, but there's a little flag in the top right corner of each course, which shows you how many times you've completed it. I'm curious, how many times have you completed 1-1, David?
That's at 216 for me right now.
Yeah,
so you could see people. Yeah, you could see like somebody who hates 1-1, like would hate this fucking game, and I think that's totally fair. But
you essentially use this. I mean, like I've only played 4-1 once, so that tells me that I should probably either practice in 4-1 or learn more about 4-1 to really understand that level where the secrets are.
Yeah,
where the stars
I mean,
are,
that's
where all the other stuff is.
I did that today. I basically just recently unlocked 6-2. and I'd beaten 6-1, so I unlocked 6-2 for me to pick at the beginning, right? So before I did any runs, I went into the practice mode and just ran through 6-2, because if I get it, I want to beat it so I can unlock more. You know what I mean? The worst feeling is like that happened to me with 5-2 for a really long time, where I just, every time I would get to it, I would fucking die. And so it's good to practice it and get it down. So when you do get to it, chill out, take a big breath, press X, get as much power-ups as you can at the very beginning, and take your time and try to beat it just like it was a regular level. Yeah, that's what I would say as far as unlocking levels are concerned. Patrick, did you have a question?
Oh, I have some random questions. I don't know if this is a good time for it or not.
It's okay. We can go to it.
Just because we were looking at the screen here, and that reminded me of two questions I have. One of which is, I've never done this, but when you go to that select a course screen, you can, I guess, use some of your like accounts coins to bring in an item. Is that true?
Yes. That's actually a point that I wanted to put on this list that I forgot about. So
it feels like cheating to me. I don't know why I don't like it.
It's bad to do because you're a dirty cheater, and then it's also bad to do because it really fucks you at the end of the game. So
how so?
Yes, you're right. You get this store of coins as you're playing, and pretty much the only thing you can spend it on right now are these like pre-game power-ups. And then I imagine eventually it'll be themes or whatever, like they did for Tetris 99. You could spend these coins on, right? But you pretty much don't want to do it, because at the end of a game, the way that the scoring works, you get a shit ton of coins if you win, right? And the way that the scoring works is it first starts with all the coins that you've collected in game, right? Then it gives you a bonus for getting first place. Then it gives you all the coins that you amassed in your treasure chest, which you unlock if you win, basically. And that's like treasure you get from KOs and stuff like that. And then if you don't do a power-up before you start, and you start as Small Mario, it doubles all of that.
I've seen the word Small Mario bonus, and I didn't know what it meant, but yeah, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, you never want to start with the power-up, and especially because you almost always start on 1-1, and there are 2 power-ups early on in 1-1, so you can just grab them that way. You just have to not choke on the first Goomba, which a lot of people tend to do.
So many people.
Yeah. But that's a good question, Patrick. I say don't spend your coins at the beginning unless you're like truly bad at Mario and you want to have protection against that first Goomba.
And maybe
I would say
maybe in a few months when it's just people playing and we're all starting on 8-1 or something.
Exactly. That might be a good time to start with a star, right? Let's talk about some specific levels in this game as well. Like we said, you're going to be getting a lot of 1-1 and 1-2, especially at this point in the meta with the game having just come out. 1-2 and 4-2, but for our purposes, let's talk about 1-2 since you'll be getting that a lot more. Is one of the best levels to get, and for multiple reasons. First of all, it's really easy to farm a lot of time and a lot of coins in this stage. Right at the beginning, you've got a power up followed by a bunch of coins, and then you've got that area where it's kind of the weird dip where oftentimes Goombas and
all the Goombas people send you get stuck.
They get stuck in there, right? Which is great. So if you jump on a Koopa, clear out all the people in a row, using a Koopa shell to clear out people is a great way to get time. And then you hit the kind of end of that little W shape in 1-2, you get a star, which you can then use to farm a shit ton of time right off the bat. And that's something you'll get always in the early game. So that's a great way to do that. There's an underground in 1-2, the first pipe with the piranha plants in it. If you go in there, there's a ton of coins on the top and bottom that you can get really quickly, plus a coin block that you can get 15 coins out of. So it's a great way to get coins and time at the beginning of the game. And then another great reason for 1-2 is the warp zone at the end, right? I think it's like the worst kept secret in all of Mario games is the warp zone at the end of 1-2. If you ride that elevator up and kind of jump over the top of the exit pipe, you come to a point where you can then pick what level you want to go to next. And what those pipes show are the next 3, it should be the next 4 really, levels in the list, right? Because like we said at the beginning, the game shuffles all the levels and then everybody plays the levels through in that order, right? So this is showing you, if you got the pipe, you'll get the next stage. But if you go into I think, and I might be wrong here, it might be right to left, but I think it's left to right. If you go into the leftmost pipe, you'll skip the next level and go to that one. And then if you go in the middle pipe, you'll skip 2 and go to that one. And if you go in the rightmost pipe, you'll skip 3 and go to that one, right? So if you're trying to unlock levels, you can always try to get as far as you can, right? And by doing that. But then if one of them is 1, 2, you should just take that again, right? Because then you can go back, farm more time and more coins, and then you still get your choice of where to go.
That's a good strat I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, so 1, 2 is like one of the best levels. 1, 1 is as well, right? You've got that early star in 1, 2 plus a 1-up. 1, 1 and 1, 2 are great for farming time and coins. Now, some that you'll want to avoid is 1, 3. 1, 3 is a level that you'll be getting a lot because it's an early level and a lot of people pick it. But 1, 3 is one of the worst levels in Super Mario Brothers 35, mainly because it's a resource sink, right? There's not really any great way to farm a bunch of lives or coins. There's like really treacherous jumps. and while the jumping physics are better in this game, if you get hit in midair while you're in one of those jumps, it'll send you straight down. You know what I mean? And you won't have the momentum that you ended with. Or if you get a power up in mid jump, it'll fuck you. So try to avoid 1, 3 if at all possible. And if you're on it, just take your time and breathe and don't worry. But just try to beat it as best as you can, not as fast as you can. I'd say 2, 2 is a great level to hit, but only if you have a fire flower. If you have a fire flower, it's great because you're gonna get a lot of the squids, the bloopers, and cheeps, the fish. For people that aren't currently in a water level, those are super deadly, right? Because like they're erratic, they move weird, the fish pop up out of nowhere. It's a great way to catch people off guard. So going to 2, 2 is great as long as you have a fire flower. And if you don't have one, hope that you have a lot of coins so that you can get a fire flower, or at the very least a star. And then castle levels are also usually pretty good to go to as long as you're stacked. You don't want to go to a castle if you're small because the corridors are really tight and you'll get piranha plants that are near impossible to get by. But if you have a fire flower or power-ups or enough coins to get power-ups, it's great because you can start to kill Bowsers, which are pretty tough enemies to send to people. You can, if you have a star, you can kill Potaboos, which are the fireballs that go up and down from the lava. They're good courses to get to send enemy spam to people. And
can I ask a question about Bowser real quick?
Yeah.
So obviously, like the easiest way to kill Bowser is to just jump over and hit the axe. But I landed on a Bowser landed like above me on some blocks. And I was like, oh, I should be able to like jump and kill Bowser, but I couldn't. Yeah, that doesn't work. Even though I thought it would. So I guess the only way to kill Bowser is fire power. If fire
flower. There's 3 ways that I can tell to kill Bowser and have it get you points, because he can't just jump off a ledge and kill himself, but you don't get anything for that. It's fire flower, obviously, which is the hardest way. It takes the most time and it leaves you the most vulnerable to his fire. Star, which is great, kills him instantly. And then another great way to do it that you can use to chain him with a good combo is a shell. Gotcha. One shell hit on Bowser will kill him. And then obviously POW blocks as well would be another way to do it. But yeah, you're right. You would think that hitting him from below would kill him. All it does is push him up.
Especially if a Koopa shell kills him. Yeah. I hope.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that's a little odd, but yeah, I mean, if he's above you though, it can be tempting to just be like, fuck it and move on. But honestly, it's worth the time to kill Bowser, right? It's worth the time to go back and get power-ups, even if you already have them because of the time bonus. And it's worth it to go back and take your time to kill Hammer Bros. It's worth it to sometimes spam X until you get something that can kill Bowser. Because, if you're being targeted by 5 people, you're sending 5 Bowsers out into rotation, and if they're all targeting you, then you get 5 back, and then you get to send, then you got 25 Bowsers out there, and the game gets super crazy. But yeah, so that's a good question about Bowser, and I wish they made that more clear as well.
And something I was surprised about Bowser is like I've jumped over Bowser because I was small Mario, but Bowser, if you're moving slowly, will slowly follow you.
Yeah. Bowser will follow you, and even more deadly than that are the Hammer Bros. Because the Hammer Bros move faster and they're more erratic and they don't follow patterns.
Well, and the Lakitus too. They fly at you and they go slow and then just zoom real quick.
Totally. So yeah, just passing them up does not put you out of the clear. They come and get you. That's why I would say Hammer Bros are the best enemy to kill, honestly. But let's talk about Lakitus. It's, we're at the point now where Lakitus actually come into play. And they drop Spinies, and you can kill both Spinies and Lakitus, and so instantly you're flooded with a shit ton of Spinies, right?
Also, just to say, like, Lakitus are the character that's in the cloud that throws the Spinies.
Right. Yeah. Mario 64's cameraman.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's easy to panic when you get a lot of Lakitus, and with just reason. Like we said, they drop enemies that if you jump on them, you get hurt, right? So don't panic if you can, and hope by the time you get to that point. This is why I have to say coins are so fucking important.
That makes sense.
Like, but by the time you get to the point where Lakitus are in play, you want to have a store of 300 coins at least, right? Because then it's like, even if you have to stall, you can eventually get Fire Flowers or a star or a Pal Block or something to clear all those out of there, right? But another thing too, even if you don't get Fire Flowers or a star when you're spamming X trying to get away from Lakitus, keep going to the right, because they'll follow you, right? And they'll follow you all the way to the end pole. And then if you've got, 20 all following you at the end pole and you clear them all at once, that's going to be hell for anybody that you're targeting. So don't panic when you get to Lakitus. But know that you very well could die. Let's talk about some end game stuff. Maybe. Unless anybody has any other questions about enemies and stuff like that. So as the timer will count down faster over time, right? And that's something that kind of frustrated me about the game originally, is that it ends up being like, when it's you and one other guy, it ends up being who chokes first, essentially, right? But eventually the timer will turn into a red timer, which starts to count down at like multiple seconds per second, right? It's really, really fast. At that point, if you're just killing people with Fire Flowers, you won't make up time, right? So at that point, that's why it's so important to always keep your time at about max 400 seconds, because you're going to be in a similar situation as them, where you're getting back some time by killing people, but like really whoever has the most time at the beginning of that countdown usually wins, as long as they don't jump off an edge and kill themselves or something like that. And like we said earlier, it's worth spamming X to get bonus items to give you more time when you're in the red as well. Let's see. You kind of brought this up earlier, Patrick, but if you're being overwhelmed by enemies and time is running out really fast, sometimes it is best to skip big chunks of the levels, right? So like going to an underworld or a subworld, or taking a vine up to a coin heaven, that will oftentimes allow you to skip whole sections of a level. But even better than that, it clears out all the enemies that people had sent you up to that point. So like, if you had like 4 Bowsers in a row and you have no coins with which to power up and you're small Mario and you've got a subworld, fucking go in the pipe. You know what I mean? Because like otherwise there's no way you're surviving that, right? And then when you come out, you're starting fresh, and any new things that they send will be sent to you, and those Bowsers are out of rotation because you didn't kill them and send them back. So that's kind of a good thing for the late game. Obviously that's the point where you're not going to want to play patiently anymore. But hopefully by the point you're at the late game like this, you've gotten good enough at some of these tips and tricks to where you can do these on the fly without taking a bunch of time. You know what I mean? And start, careening through enemies as fast as you can with the star, getting those, turtle combos and stuff like that. I would say some good tips from here are, if you're interested in getting better at the game, is watching YouTubers. Cosmic is a great, reference for you. He's got multiple world records in the original Super Mario Brothers in speedrunning, and so he knows this game inside and out, and he's been consistently in the top 3 of all the leaderboards on this game since it's come out. So he's got great tips for you. A lot of these tips I learned from YouTubers as well. Somebody like Ryukar, who's a Mario Maker Mario Maker YouTuber. He's just entertaining to watch, and then Ryukar. Also like you can learn a lot from watching him play the game. There's a great Facebook group that I'm a part of. It's it's just called Mario 35 Fans. And there's a lot of great people in there, and I've been an active member of that community, and they all share cool tips and tricks. And then another thing I would just say is don't get discouraged by losing in this game, because you're going to lose a lot, especially early on, and try to view each death as like an opportunity to learn what mistake you made to cause that death, because it's almost always your fault, right? Like if you died on a botched jump because some enemy hit you, then just know like you might die on that jump. So be careful around that jump in the future. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. Right. And it's so quick to be able to restart that, don't kick yourself if you lose. It's a learning opportunity. And it's the only way you get better.
Just curious, David or Patrick, if you die kind of on that same subject, do you all ever like spectate if they're like 2 or 1?
I have,
or I guess 3.
I have mostly when I've been in when I've died at 3rd or something is when I'm like, I'll spectate now because I want to see
when it's down to the wire. It's fun. Although the matches can't just go on for so long that I get bored sometimes. That's why I end up just watching YouTubers over spectating, because at least I have commentary there. But yeah, sometimes it's good too. I mean, especially early on. Just like figuring out the best ways to play. You can kind of watch people, and if they're in the top 3, they're going to be good players. Another thing that you should note at the beginning, and this is something I only found out today, and this is true with Tetris 99 too, and I didn't realize it, but at the beginning, sometimes you see some players will sparkle in their square, or you'll have a sparkle on your square. What that means is that player is over the last 10 runs has averaged at 5th place or higher. Right. Like I've been sparkling and I've been going in. I'm like, what the fuck does a sparkle mean? And I just looked it up. But those are good people to target sometimes, or people to steer clear of. Right. So it's kind of a little bit of a visual indicator to watch out for the good players. That was a lot of stuff. This went longer than I thought it would.
Well, before we do like wrap up and review, there is the special battle, and I'm kind of curious about that. Like, obviously, that's probably going to change over time, but right now it's like a set order of courses, and I've only played it like once when I first started because I didn't know. Have you all messed around much with that? And also, do you think that if you beat a level there, does that unlock for you in the other mode, or do we not know the answer to that question?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
Okay.
I don't think special battles do unlock levels for you.
Okay.
So that's one reason to not play them. But Matt, you had something about special battles?
Yeah, I played special battles just a little bit. It just because it's got shiny text and it says new. That's why I chose
time.
it.
Oh.
Yeah,
right.
Life is short. I got to play special battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you already said, it's a curated playlist. It's already selected, and then you usually start with 20 coins or more.
I wonder.
So you already have a power.
I wonder what they'll do in the future with that. That'll be interesting to see. If there are any other ones.
We can maybe talk briefly about some things that we hope for this game, but I think, for me, I think the main draw of that is the leaderboards, right? Because it's kind of different every week what the special battle is. So it's always the same. So it's a little bit easier to try to really craft your way through, right? And it's going to have variance because you're playing against different people every time. But like, I think that's the main draw, are people that kind of chase after leaderboards, which isn't necessarily me. Right now, my main focus is unlocking levels and winning. Obviously, my first goal is to win, and then it's unlocking levels. And so, so I'm not playing a lot of special battle, but I think once I unlock a lot of all of the levels, I'll probably play it more. And like you said, Patrick, hopefully eventually those are for more Maximus Cup style event battles rather than just, because there's daily challenges too.
Yeah.
But you usually get those after like 2 runs, if not the first run. So it's like, hopefully they give us an incentive to have all these coins and play these modes in the future, but if this is going away in March, maybe not. Yeah, I guess we've got some closing notes here. Did you write these, Matt?
I did.
Wow, very, very nice.
Yeah. These are just a wrap up of everything we talked about in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 easy steps.
Do you want to list these off as the newbie from today?
Of course. Yeah. Number 1, this is not in order of importance, but something to consider. Number 1, take your time. You probably played enough Mario where you want to rush or go towards the end of the level, but this is Mario 35. It's way different. It's not a speed run. Number 2, learn the levels and their secrets. Learn where the power-ups are, the 1-ups, the stars. Watch people on YouTube, learn the levels, look it up before you start playing so you know the layouts beforehand. So when you get to a level, number 3, get coins, get time.
Hell yeah. Most important thing, as soon as you can, max out both. And by max, I mean 300 coins. That's like the most comfortable place you can be about. That's the minimum where you want to be. And then time, 400. 300 coins, 400 time. Try to get that as quick as possible.
Yeah, number 4. In most cases, you'll target attackers. That's what everyone else is doing. You'll see red lines for people targeting you. And when you send those enemies and people are targeting you, you'll send enemies to everyone. So that could be 2 people, 3 people, 4, 5 people, 6, so on and so forth. What number are we on? Number 6?
I don't know.
Yeah, let's see.
Let's say 6. I think it's 5.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
It's
okay, 5.
No, number 5. Stop choosing 1-1.
Oh no, you're
Stop
right.
choosing
It was 6. I don't know what you're.
It's all good. 1-2 is a great level where you can get coins.
But don't even pick 1-2 because someone else will. You know what I mean? You'll get 1-1 and 1-2 regardless of whether you pick them or not. Pick the late levels.
The next number we could be a 7.
It is 7. I'm unless you skipped one. I thought you might have skipped one.
I did skip one.
Okay, let's abandon the numbers and just start saying them.
Another hot tip is consider when you're going up against these enemies. The most deadly enemies are Bowser, Hammer Bros, and Lakitus.
Yeah. That's right. And I would put Piranha Plants up there too. Remember, if Piranha Plants can really fuck you up if you're small Mario.
And the placement of them and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly.
And then one other tip that we wanted to suggest.
Number 7.
Number 7 is don't start with power-ups. You have a lot of coins. You'll be tempted starting with the star or starting with the fire flower. Don't do it, because if you win, you'll double your coins by means of the small Mario bonus.
Very good. Thank you for that recap, Matt. That was well produced in a timely fashion.
Also, I'm curious if there's anybody listening out there who has some tips that we didn't shout out. I'd love to hear.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that. Or if you disagree strongly with something, or if you can get our numbering correct, let us know what the correct numbering of that.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I might be wrong with the progression of the pipes in the warp zones. I'm not sure if it goes left to right in order or right to left in order. So fuck around with it and practice and see. You know, if it says 1-3, 1-2, 4-2 or whatever, and you go in the left one, and then it's the next one that was in that order, you'll know, right? I just didn't do enough research before this episode to know exactly what it is, but warp zones are your friend for sure. We've been talking for a while, but maybe we could just quickly say something a couple things that we wish could happen in this game. I mean, do you guys have any that have been sticking out to you?
I'm still pretty new to it. Even I was kind of surprised how little time I had on my actual time played when we pulled that up. So I don't know. I can see that with more time, this will get better, but then maybe at some point it'll become stale. I don't know. I'm kind of curious what y'all have to say.
I think there's a few ways that they can make it not stale, right? I mean, I think first, obviously, is like adding more Mario games into this. Adding the lost levels into this would be an obvious, great add-on pack. Even just doing the hard mode, when you come back to levels after you've already hit them once in rotation, hitting like the new game plus version of the levels that you get whenever you beat Mario, that stuff would be really great. So that's an easy way. And adding in eventually Mario Brothers 3 or Super Mario Brothers World would make this game super robust and probably one of the best games ever. And then I also think this game is super fucking ugly. I think this is one of the ugliest looking games I've ever played in my entire life. And I'm talking about like the UI here. I think like the yellow and orange backgrounds with like, and there's no like cohesion with any of the fonts that they've picked in this game. There's like 20 different kinds of fonts. I think that they can maybe upgrade the UI a little bit. and then my last thing that I think that they should really consider adding is having some sort of bonus for beating the level fast, right? Like if you do speed run a level, I think it would be really, really cool if you got a time bonus at the end so that it gives you a whole new way to play the game. So like you can decide whether you want to take your time, farm enemies and coins, or speed through the level and go really fast and get a different kind of bonus, whether it be a set number of coins and a set number of time, given whatever time you beat it on. I think that would add so much variety to the game and make it to where people who hate playing the game slow would have like a good reason to just barge through it. I think that would be a really cool way to incentivize growth and variety in gameplay.
That's good call. I like that. Like if you could run through it, especially when people are sending you spam, that would be really impressive to watch people speed running all this random enemies,
Yeah. Or like you get a bonus on a level if you don't kill a single enemy. You know what I mean? Or beat it as small Mario the whole time. But, you know what I mean? Like little stuff like that would really help with the gameplay experience.
Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, one thing I thought of when it first kind of came out was would it just be kind of cool if they had just like a random level generator or something, you know what I mean? Like sort of just procedurally generated Mario levels eventually. But
if they don't kill this game in March, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Going back to what you said, David, I would like to see more bonuses, which are like most enemies killed on a specific level, or any kind of data points of like you killed 25 Goombas, 25 Bowsers, to like crank up the kills.
Yeah,
like, at like first person shooter games do.
Right, or like a gacha game or a mobile game, or you have like the daily challenges that they have in right now are pretty much worthless because they just give you coins. But if they gave you advantages in the game as you're playing, people would be more likely to actually pay attention to them, right? Like it'd be kind of a cool way to do some progression, I think. Well, fuck. If you've been listening to this point, hopefully you've actually played this game and you actually got something out of this. Like Patrick said, if we missed something or if you have any questions or anything, feel free to drop us a line. You can email us at superswitchheads@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Instagram or Facebook at Super Switch Heads, on Twitter at Switch Heads. And then we also have our Facebook group where we're doing lots of Mario 35 discussion, and you can reach us easily in that group. And we also have our Discord as well, which we'll have links to in the description. Other than that, you've got lots of resources, like we said before. Shout out to that Mario 35 fans Facebook group. I've been really enjoying it, and I'm mainly shouting them out, so they're okay with me posting this in their sub. But yeah, I guess anybody have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Not really. It's a good game.
Let's call it. Let's. This is very long for a bonus episode. We love you guys very much. I hope you're enjoying the game. And other than that, we'll be back with a regular episode on Wednesday. So we'll see you then. We love you guys very much. Vote. Bye bye.